Greetings, my scattered brothers and sisters in the Lord. Trust you know the Lord is with you wherever you find yourself scattered today, and that you know that his presence with you is more than enough for whatever you might face today. Well, we are still with Jesus, and Jesus is teaching about end times, and we notice that as the disciples asked the question about when all this was going to happen, and Jesus started talking about the end, it seems like there's at least a couple of ends. The end of the temple in Jerusalem, but also the end of all time. And we've kind of been looking at this in terms of end times are end times, that whenever you go through end times, and whether that was in the first century and the fall of Jerusalem, whether that is towards the end of the first century and the persecution of the church by the Roman Empire, whether that's in our times where we feel like sometimes we're in the midst of end times. It's kind of like end times are end times. And we've noticed that end times, God is at work to bring about new beginnings, to bring about new creation. We've noticed that in the midst of end times, you're going to be put on the spot. Are you going to be faithful to Jesus or not? Are you going to testify to Jesus as Lord or not? And that the Holy Spirit will give us words to say and power to say them when we are put on the spot. And we've also observed that Jesus that will cut short the days, that end times can be so difficult that no one will survive, but God cuts short those days for the sake of the elect, for the sake of his chosen. And so we've kind of seen, that's good news that God knows what we can handle, and he'll cut short the days that we can't handle. And so now we're at the place where Jesus begins to talk about especially the ultimate end. And so I'll pick it up at verse 24 of Mark chapter 13. But in those days after that tribulation, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. And then he will send out the angels and gather his elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the ends of heaven. And so here Jesus is talking about ultimate end. And I think that's the first thing I want to help us to think about, that all of our end times, what they point us to is that there is an ultimate end time coming. And when that end time comes, and Jesus is going to emphasize nobody knows exactly when that's going to come, but all of our end times kind of point to that ultimate end time. And when that time does come, Jesus will come, and he will gather his chosen ones, his elect, his faithful, those who follow him and confess his name. He will gather them from the four corners of the earth. It will be a huge gathering when it seems most like everything is falling apart. The sun's falling, the stars are falling, the moon's falling. It's like everything is falling apart, but Jesus comes and Jesus gathers his people together from all parts. The second thing I want to think about, notice the Son of Man language coming on clouds. This is taken from Daniel chapter 7, and Daniel had a vision of the kingdoms of this world, and every kingdom was beastly and was described as some type of beast. They were inhumane, they were cruel, they were beastly rulers, beastly empires. And finally, there comes a day when all the beasts are done, defeated, and one like a Son of Man comes on the clouds of glory and gathers the elect together, gathers God's people together, and is worthy of worship. And so we see that God's kingdom is a human kingdom, or a humane kingdom, rather than a beastly kingdom. And so Jesus is pulling from that to talk about this ultimate end when he will return, and he will bring a humane kingdom, a righteous kingdom, a just kingdom with peace, rather than one more beastly kingdom. And so when the beastly kingdoms have kind of run their course according to God's timing, then the Son of Man will come and everything will be shaken. And the Son of Man will gather, Jesus will gather, and it will be a righteous, just, peace kingdom. And so we look forward, we anticipate that day, kind of this ending of endings. And so wherever you find yourself scattered today, those are the two things I'd like you to remember, that all of our end times, they help us realize that there's an ultimate end time in which Jesus will come. and Jesus will gather. And there'll be no more beast, that the Son of Man will establish his humane kingdom over the face of the earth. And what a joy it will be to be part of that. So God bless. Have a grateful day. And don't be afraid to lean into endings, because ultimately Jesus is coming and will establish not a beastly kingdom, but a humane kingdom filled with his peace. God bless. Have a great day.